Owen Paterson.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can I begin by thanking Jeff, Danske Bank, the FSB, and the other sponsors here for putting this event on. I have said in public that this is possibly the largest question facing this country since the Reformation. A lot of people mock that. The point I'm trying to get is to people really think about it, because what we're looking at is what sort of country is this and who runs it. So the first point to make is that this was always a political project. Jean Monnet and Arthur Salter, going right back to the horrors of the First World War, were determined to create a supranational arrangement so that independent sovereign states could be overruled. That was absolutely clear from the beginning. And you saw that with the Steel and Coal Community, which they set up. Monnet then overstepped himself, trying to create a European army, and then went underground, pushing the European project through the market. And I think it's remarkable how far they've got this. So people like Margaret Thatcher, through gritted teeth, gave up significant government vetoes in order to pursue the extension of the market. But where we've got to now is a fork in the road. The euro is a nightmare for the members of Southern Europe. It's a huge problem for members of Northern Europe. And there has to be, in effect, a new country created around the eurozone, which has been promised, in fairness, by the President's report published last summer. The intention is, by about 2025, to have a new treaty and to have not just currency, but economic and political union by then. We can never, ever go there. Ever. Despite heroic efforts by John, who I remember when he was an MEP, working with him in the European Parliament, it doesn't matter how hard enthusiasts for the UK joining the euro try, we will never go there. So actually, everyone talks about the European Union as a nice, stable entity, and it's wild and dangerous to leave. We don't know where this is going. We will be permanently outvoted. We will be somewhere on the outside by 2025, some strange associate status. We will continue to be outvoted in the European Parliament, where we only have 9% of the vote, even if our whole team got their act together, which they never will. We will continue to be outvoted in the Council, where the Prime Minister himself has been outvoted 40 times. We will continue to be sat on by the European Court of Justice. And when you talk about sovereignty, I'll tell you about sovereignty, having been the Secretary of State in DEFRA. Day one, big brief, very exciting, newly appointed, big, brave, democratically elected Secretary of State. I was astounded to find that we were in the process of handing back over £600 million sterling because of the manner in which the last Labour government introduced CAP reform, not to the satisfaction of the European authorities. There was absolutely nothing I could do about that. That's what happens when you pool sovereignty. Other people make decisions. So we really are at a fork in the road now. We have a wonderful opportunity. And it was promised in the Bloomberg speech, and of course what's come out since is bitterly disappointing. The Prime Minister asked for very little and was given less, and it's probably not legally binding. What we should have gone for, and what we should go for now, is to be resolute and clear. Wish the Eurozone well, given the history of currency unions in the 19th century. Personally, I'm doubtful, but wish them well. We want our neighbours to prosper. But this is the moment we say, we cannot follow you there. We have to move back to what we were promised we were voting for in 1975, which was an economic and a trading arrangement. And that is where we should go. We should have a totally new settlement based on trade and cooperation across a whole range of activities. So you can cooperate on security for a start. I was the shadow here for 3 years, coming here every week, but I made a point of going to Dublin, getting to know the Fianna Fáil government then, and the then opposition with Enda in charge. And it was absolutely clear that the extraordinary improvement in Northern Ireland is down to this amazing cooperation between three sovereign states: the United Kingdom, the Republic of Ireland, and the United States of America. The EU had virtually nothing to do with this, so I entirely endorse what Kate says. It's utterly disgraceful to say that any change to that security position will be thrown up in the air by a vote to leave the political arrangements of the European Union. We can then grasp the world, and we can get back on those bodies that ultimately make regulation. The European Union is increasingly a law taker than a lawmaker. So dear old Norway always gets dragged into this. Norway has a huge fishing industry. and an enormous export volume of fish. Norway chairs the Codex Alimentarius Committee on Fish and Fish Products. So a Mars bar to anyone who can identify what that is. Codex Alimentarius is the world body that sets world regulation on fish and fish production. Don't you believe that the Norwegians, they jolly well make sure they have alliances with the United States, with Namibia, with Russia or whoever, to make sure that world regulation on fishing suits them. I went to New Zealand and Australia on a trip looking at TB at the time. The New Zealand minister came in a state of high excitement, very early in the morning, 8 o'clock, said, we've got an OIE meeting, further Mars bar, anyone knows what that is. That is the world body that decides regulation on animal diseases. And at the time, we had a big problem with Schmallenberg in sheep. He said, it's fantastic. We got an amendment down next week. We got the Aussies come in this morning. That'll bring in a couple of South American countries. That'll bring in Canada, and we should get the States. I said, steady, guys, steady, hang on. We've got 26.5 million sheep in the UK. What about us? You? Well, I don't know. You're the UK. You better ask the EU. So there was I, the democratically elected head of state, Secretary of State. Sorry, Secretary of State. Slip of the tongue. I met the head of the state, ex-head of state last week, and I had no say in this. I had absolutely no say. And that's what happens when you pool sovereignty. You don't make the laws. So what this really comes down to is what sort of country it is, who makes the laws, who taxes you, and what do you do if they make bad laws and they tax you badly? There is absolutely nothing any of you can do to elect or remove a bad commissioner. So Kate mentioned the WTO. It is absolutely vital that world free trade is regalvanized. Tragically, the Doha round has ground to a halt. We could work with the Anglosphere, the United States, New Zealand, Canada, Australia. We got extraordinary links to the Commonwealth, which is a 4 trillion organization, and obviously very good links in Asia. We are currently represented on the WTO by, I'm sure, the most charming, intelligent, clever person. But she happens to be a psychiatric nurse from Sweden, who currently last taught sociology at Gothenburg University. Not my choice to run and debate and fight for the 5th largest economy in the world. So if you vote to leave, and I hope you will, and we saw good support in Donegal Place today, and 50% of the fishermen in Kilkeel are up for leaving today, you will vote to decide who makes your laws, who taxes you, and if they make bad laws and they waste your taxes, you can kick them out. That is a really fundamental right which you have a chance to win back on June the 23rd. Thank you very much.